Hello, everyone. My name is Ana Lira, Sustainability Manager at Ocean Pact. It's with great pleasure that we begin our participation in the 5 Ocean Decade Laboratory at Safe Ocean. First, I'd like to show a video to briefly present Ocean Pact.
The oceans are fundamental for our planet's survival. They regulate the climate, process nutrients, and provide a wide range of ecosystem services, including natural resources, energy, and food and jobs that benefit millions of people. It is by the seas and for the seas that Ocean Pact exists. As of 2019, over 2,000 kilometers of Brazil's coastline were contaminated by crude oil. Ocean Pact went to the area to assist and help mitigate the problem. Just like we did 10 years ago after the explosion of the Deepwater Horizon platform in the Gulf of Mexico. To truly understand our magnificent planet requires commitment, determination, and love for the oceans. We always act safely and we respect the environment as a fundamental ethical pillar. Ocean Pact operates in 3 key segments: environment, subsea operations, and logistics and engineering. And we are constantly investing in innovation. Ocean Pact only exists because of the strength of our 1,600 employees, 190 of whom are oceanographers, biologists, or engineers. Our team operates a fleet of 24 offshore vessels and 41 port vessels. Ocean Pact, a reference in knowledge and services at sea.
As could you see in our video, we are a Brazilian company who develops and implements safe, efficient, and innovative solutions in the areas of environment, subsea operations, logistical support, and engineering. We are a reference in knowledge and service at sea, actively participate in the main entities and events in the sector, and we maintain close contact with several centers of the development of new technologies, in addition to constantly investing in research and innovation. Our objective and primary vocation is to enable the sustainable use of the sea, the coast, and marine resource. Talking about Brazil, it's a fundamental country when it comes to environmental issues and whose performance and engagement is essential for us to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals all over the world. Our country of continental dimensions has a huge coastline with almost 7.5 thousand kilometers in length, which gives us an exclusive economic zone of 3.6 million square kilometers. Due to its ecological importance and high vulnerability, Brazilian Navy called the zone as Blue Amazon, corresponding to the light blue zone on this map. Regarding our mineral resource, it's important to say that more than 90% of all oil consumed in Brazil comes from the sea, where it also estimates that from 2022 to 2031, oil production in Brazilian pre-salt layer, a large reserve of oil and natural gas found in deep waters, should reach the mark of 8.2 billion barrels of oil equivalent accumulated. In view of this scenario, it's evident the importance of wisely developing contingency plans associated with oil spill incidents at sea, in order to avoid or, when inevitable, to remedy major bad impacts. With this in mind, in defense, protection, and maintenance of the integrity of our seas, we reiterate our commitment to the decade of the oceans, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the promotion of oceanic culture. We at the Ocean Pact recognize the importance and urgency of adopting sustainable practice and standards, and we strive daily for this to be incorporated and part of our company's culture. Once again, I express our deep satisfaction in participating in this event of unparalleled relevance for building a sustainable future we dreamed and to which we committed ourselves at the beginning of our journey. Please, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to contact us via the platform chat throughout our presentation. I say goodbye for now and give the floor to Adriano Ranieri from Witt O'Brien's, which is the consulting arm from Ocean Pact.
Thanks, Anna. Hi, everyone. My name is Adriano Ranieri. I am the current CEO for Witzel Brands Brazil, a consultant company for at Ocean Pact Group. In our next hour, we will present the requirements and how to go about preparing a plan, a oil spill plan for offshore operations in Brazil. I will start talking over our challenges regarding oil spill in Brazil and our requirements. Then I will go over the four key elements to developing our oil spill plan. During my presentation, I will call some of my colleagues for deeper operational details for you guys. Hope you all enjoy it and let's go. So the first part it would be like understanding Brazil. As everybody knows, Brazil has an extensive coastline length. So in our coastline, you're gonna find a lot of high sensitivity areas. You find a lot of mangroves, coral reefs, turtles, so a lot of nests, turtle along the coastline, marine mammal on the coastline, a lot of fishing activities, and in this case we're talking about like not only industrial fishing activities but a lot of community fishing activities as well, sand beats and rock shore. So this is like a huge environmental that for sure we need to be knowledgeable about when you think about oil spill. When you go over and talk a little bit about the knowledge of oil spill preparedness, oil spill plan in Brazil, as is around the world, a lot of the resolution happened after an event. That happened with us also. So in 2000, after the oil spill in the Guanabara Bay, we have the first oil law that this law gave like the framework explaining and requirements which activities you would need like a oil plant. Follow this law, we have two CONAMA resolution, and this CONAMA resolution in the beginning was uh, about equipment, what you must have dedicated, what are your main procedures. Then follow mainly by a turning point after Macondo incidents that we have the 2013 IBAMA technical notes. IBAMA is our federal environmental agency here in Brazil that have released understanding what you need and all the lessons learned from Macondo. And followed by that, we have a national contingency plan for oil spill, defined also in 13, then a chemical dispersion and an oil in situ burning resolution. Um, wrong here, sorry guys. So these lead us for during the environment process, permitting process, we need to present like a oil spill contingency plan. And here in Brazil, the contingency plan it's pretty robust. No, we start like have to present the minimal amount of dedicated vessels and equipment, maximum time to respond, and the training and drills that you have. I'm gonna follow this presentation. I'm going for now. Giving just in a timeline, just to uh, come all this information together and see how we evolve from mm, early stages of the regulation, asking only for equipment list and human resource, go up to today that we go for a lot of complex drills and that. So from 2001 to 2008, the main requirement was present your vessels, present your equipment, present how what are your procedures, but mainly just a list of equipment. After Macondo, on technical note 03, they start to ask for more toolbox approach. So how your procedures come together to actually do not only attack the incident with one procedures, but more strategies. We also move our legislation for um, more requirements on the wildlife protection and shoreline protection as well. So I will present from 2014 to 2016. The whole industry came together to actually put the marine products in the roads, and I'm gonna talk a lot about these products. And nowadays, what we see that you have to present a pre-complex oil spill contingency plan, a lot of the procedures, all what you need to do for wildlife protection, shoreline protection, but also complex drill to prove that you are ready for operations. Um, it's like a Brazil framework, and what are the key elements to be prepared here in Brazil? We have divided in four, and this is the first one would be like understand the environmental, evaluate the risk, develop the plans, and conduct trainings and exercise. Understand the environment, it's the what you need, what you want. It's really to have all the information ready to be used, if possible, in a data bank, no, in a GIS data bank. The first thing, as we're going to start on the ocean, as our operation is the ocean, is to understand the ocean dynamics. And to talk a little bit more about ocean dynamics, I call my friends Fred Marines.
Hello, everybody. Good day to you all. My name is Fred Marins, Commercial Director at Ocean Pack Geo. And my contribution to this panel is to throw some light on the importance of understanding the dynamics of the ocean to support an emergency response. So why ocean dynamics is so important on an emergency? Because, well, the ocean is how can I say, is the body of water where the oil travels to, right, from an emergency to shore, to a final destination, right? So why is it really important? So you can actually define how to position your response assets, right, on an emergency, right? And we understand that the importance of understanding the ocean dynamics is to reduce to as minimum as possible the time for the emergency response based on the oil path. We need to know where the oil comes from and where does it go to. How fast does it go? How fast does it travel? And what's the likelihood of the oil sheen to reach the coast and how long it will take? How much time do I have to get my response organized onshore before the oil gets there? Right. So that's the main reason why ocean dynamics it's absolutely crucial during an emergency response to understand and to predict. Okay. Second slide I have here is just try to understand what's the ocean. The ocean's a massive mass of water that's permanently in movement. And the movement of the oceans is caused by a series of factors, right? Including Earth rotation, wind, surface wind, the variation of water temperature, the seabed morphology, river discharge, and tides. So it's a series of factors that are permanently interacting to each other and causing the movement of the oceans, right? So the pictures you can see here, on the right, you can see a series of the yellow mass over there is the continent, right? The blue is the ocean, and the white waves are basically the ocean currents. So you can see different partners, different edges, different types of movements from one direction to the other. So it's a really, really complex and uh, on constant move. Okay. And the picture on the left, you have a series of nearshore processes that interacts among themselves to contribute to dynamics of the ocean. So it's really complex and multi-discipline and multi-dimensional phenomena, right? That needs to be understood. Okay, so ocean dynamics are driven by different forces when offshore or close to the beach. So it's really important not to generalize your approach during an oil spill response. So every single day counts. Every single day needs to be monitored, right? And the ocean behaves differently from one environment to the other. The way the ocean behaves on a certain area is you cannot take for granted will behave on the same way on a different area, whether offshore, whether near shore, or whether to close by locations. What happens away from coast may be totally different from what happens close to shore. And that's really important to understand your local, all right? So you need to think globally and act locally, all right? That's my contribution here. Slide 3, you can also know that apart from the different dynamic behaviors, whether offshore or close to the beach, it's also important to understand that dynamics are also subject to seasonal or annual variation. Every day is different or can be different from the previous one. It's very dangerous and risk not to take. It's very dangerous and risky to take ocean dynamics for granted. There's a need for permanent monitoring. On the slide here, you have a certain region in two different periods of the year, all right? Winter and summer. The blue is the ocean, and the green line is the current speeds and direction. So you can see that winter, you have a very complex environment with a series of waves and currents traveling from different directions, right? While in the summer, it's much more, it's a clean, you have a clean image here, which demonstrates a certain long period partner, okay? So again, just to recap a little bit, offshore, near shore, different behaviors. Winter, summer, spring, fall, right? And there are some certain phenomena that change from time to time, every year, every 2 years, every decades, right? So it's really important to be on permanent monitoring. And how do we monitor this? How do we measure? How can we predict? Right, so it's really important to have a full understanding of the ocean to organize your oil spill response. It's really important to have a solid time series of data. Right? And a good database shall cover at least 2 to 3 years of data at certain locations to ensure that large scale movements are also captured and registered on your ocean database. Right? And oceanographic data can be acquired by different platforms. On the slide here, we have a few assets, a few sorts of equipment that we use on our projects here to get long-term and solid oceanographic data, okay? On the left, you can see what we call oceanographic mooring line. What's an oceanographic mooring line? You can see the drawing. It's a little bit small on the slide, but it's basically a line, right, that comes from the surface to the bottom of the ocean, and sometimes it can have 2, 3 kilometers, right? And you install several equipment along this rope. Okay, you have ADCP to measure currents, you have CTDs to measure sea temperature in different depths, and you leave this equipment underwater for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, even 5 years, so you can be sure that every single natural phenomena is captured within your database. So nothing will escape from your database. All right. On the top right, you have gliders. Gliders are autonomous vehicles that patrol the oceans, right? Autonomously, getting oceanographic data, sea temperature, salinity, right, and pressure, which is also important to understand the currents. The internal currents of the oceans are basically driven by variation in temperature. So again, gliders stay underwater for 60 days, 90 days autonomously before we go there, capture, download the data, and give some feedback to the data series. And also oceanographic buoys, massive buoys that we install on the sea surface to measure waves and currents and met oceanographic data. These are certain equipment. And again, to have real-time monitoring, we have this high-frequency radar antennas that can be installed close to shore, and they keep monitoring surface currents on the sea in real time, right? So in order to have a full understanding of the ocean dynamics and organize your spill response, it's really important to have solid time series of data. Then I'll hand the word back to my colleague Adriano. I hope I had made a small contribution to understand why oceanographic data is really important for an emergency response.
Thanks, Fred. This was really, really good to understand. So it's This is all the oceanographic data that we take and put like in the data bank. Um, Thanks. So now we have to collect all this data that Fred was told about, and actually, and you have like a winter, summer, near shore, offshore, and how to manage this amount of data, only the ocean data. So that's why we go for a GIS information system, right? Uh, then when you're gonna start to move near shore and coastline, we start to have another environment information that's really important to take in account in case of preparing for oil spill. So you have to be aware of your ecosystem. What's priority sites for protection do you have? Do you have turtle nests on your area? Do you have bird reproduction specific place, some islands on our area? Find these priority sites. You need to have the list of species that we are talking about. How can you be prepared if you do not know this list? For sure, you should include all your conservation units that's there and all the information of these conservation units to take in account when you getting preparing your plan. Infrastructure. Uh, yeah, it's think about it's changed a lot how you're gonna be prepared and how you actually gonna respond if a oil spill it's arriving at Copacabana beach, is Ipanema beach, or just arrive as a isolate sand beach, or it's arriving in a mangrove area. So you need to think about like what infrastructure you have there. How we gonna assess this point? This is it's not only okay. I gonna protect this area and how to protect these areas. It's with this strategy. You have to check if your strategy, the resource need to implement this strategy, if you can assess the area with that, and even if the equipment that you're bringing to an area, sometimes like an island, if you can do that, if it has another impact of doing that. And stakeholders. Never forget your stakeholders when you're starting to plan your oil spill preparedness. Stakeholders, it's necessary for a lot of things. No, you're gonna need to know which stakeholders you should keep in the loop, should inform, but you also has a lot of stakeholders that actually gonna act together with you during the event. So just an example, fishing community. Uh, they know all the dynamics in the area. They have the boats, they have all the vessels of opportunities. So you must engage with them. So this is actually it's where you want to be. You want to have all this information before you write your plan. You need to be aware of all that. And in early days in Brazil, this was not the case, right? Sometimes we have a lot of ocean dynamics, a lot of ocean data, as all the activity it is on the ocean, but we have some lack of near shore and coastline information. So as a lesson learned of the big incidents of the industry, uh, the oil and gas industry in Brazil come together and actually start the marine projects. And the marine projects was approached to fulfill all this lack of information, all this gap of what you want to have before writing an oil spill plan and what really we had. And this was a really huge project. We were proud to be part of this project. It was 3 to 4 years to implement the whole project from planning to the last islands that we went. And in the end, the numbers of the project it's huge. No, it actually was mapped all the Brazilian shoreline, islands, and wildlife there. So for the shoreline, it was done by all means of transportation. No, it's mainly by car, but a lot of the areas in the coastline, we have to use air, small airplanes, vessels, sometimes smaller vehicles because of the access, and we map all the access also. So it's more than 7,000 kilometers of coastline. 19 Brazilian states were involved on that. 3,000 sites visits, more than 100,000 geophotos, and we have identified and had in the plan more than 4,000 wildlife species that could be impacted in case of oil spill. We identify 835 relevant sites for protection. So if you do a oil spill plan today in Brazil, you already know what's a relevant site for protection and what's a priority site for protection. So it's to do not be in doubt what to do. All this information is in a GIS data bank. We have included that environment sensitivity index, all the conservation units. We have add some strategy response sheets, puts all the information, local, uh, closer hospital, ports, airports. We have already inputs all the turtle nest areas and wildlife species. Um, the products also have in PDF all the response sheets. What's as a response sheet for the product? It's for each area, you have one sheet that will have all the information needed for responders. So this was really planning for responders on act. It's like small, good information on site, and he do not go need to go for a really huge plan. It's just one page, boom, boom, and you have all the information you need to start your preparation in the area. Uh, Sorry, just going back. One important information for you all is all the information of these projects today. It's on the website. It's free for downloading. So it's you just Google Marine projects and you're gonna find the website for the project. Okay. So we understand the environment. Now we have all the information. It's ocean, near shore, coastline. Now we're gonna start to actually add to your plan what are the risks of operation. How we do that? No, we start by actually analyzing your operational risk. What are any activity or anything that can happen on an activity that would lead for oil spill. So we take all this operational risk, take all that can lead to a spill, and divide in three categories. So small spills, medium spills, and worst case spills. And it really studies the worst case spills for any operations. Then we do our oil drifting modeling. And this oil drifting modeling, it's done with all the ocean data, dynamic data that Fred already present to us. So we go do our oil drifting modeling. And as Fred told, here in Brazil, we need to do summer modeling and winter modeling. So they can like change a lot. This modeling will give you the probability of any oil spill in certain area to arrive in another point and time. So gonna give probability and time with that. With this both information, we go cross them and you have our environment risk. So we check what's are the resource at risk. No, uh, thinking about one activity here, and if you have already know that something can spill some amount of oil, they can actually take a oil drift and see that if I spill this amount of oil, I have a 30% probability that can reach these islands. Now I'm gonna cross-check with the environment information that I have on my data bank and check what do you have in this island? I have a mangrove, I have turtle nest. Do I have what type of species that I have there? So with this information, we start to developing the plans. And it is like that. It is the plans. It's not one plan, but it's a lot of plans. The first plan that we're going to present to you guys, it's what we call here in Brazil PEI, Plano de Emergência Individual. It's the oil spill contingency plan. It's the most strategy. It's the overall of the plans. It's gonna take and present what's your organization structure, so how you are prepared to handle a oil spill. It's also gonna present what's your management procedures. It's not your response procedures now. It's your management procedures. How you're gonna come with people together and thinking about how you're gonna respond. No, here in Brazil, a lot. Uh, the institution and the company, it's already using the ICS, the Incident Command System, that it's really like help them to have a common language and talk between them, and not only between companies, but between also the Brazil institution. We have all the information on the environmental vulnerability analysis on the plan. You have to present to know ahead all your notification and communication protocol. So it's really important to understand what are your stakeholders and what type of information the stakeholders need. Then you present here your equipment and vessels. Now we are talking really for like close to close to the operation. No? It's more like the offshore activities. Then you're gonna also now starting to present your operational response procedures, like how you're gonna monitor, how you're gonna do your containment and recovery, your mechanical dispersion, your chemical dispersion. If you are planning to use in situ burning, uh, if your analysis has taken for that. And to present a little bit deeper the equipment, the vessels, and procedures, I'm gonna call another friend of mine, João Serra.
Thanks, Adriano. So I'm João Serra. I'm the commercial manager here at Ocean Pact. um, Firstly, it's a pleasure to speak to you guys a little bit about our work in Brazil. Um, Adriano has spoken largely about the legislative, the legal requirements, strategic planning, and so on. Um, I'm going to talk a little bit about the oil spill preparedness and response strategies. So, starting here, basically, for an effective environmental response, environmental protection, we basically need a systematic assessment of what oil spill risks may occur, and this takes into consideration the operational setting, where we're working and the environmental conditions which we work in, as well as the ecological and social economic resources that may be threatened. So this Adriano has talked a lot about, how we do the planning, how we evaluate all of this, and the result of what Adriano has discussed ultimately comes down to the pay, as he said. And here we develop a comprehensive toolbox, which involves procedures, management structures, trained personnel, both from the management planning office side as well as the operational and field personnel, all the way down to the actual equipment, the actual resources that are adequate for prevention and combating any kind of oil spill. In summary, we can see that oil spill response preparedness and preparedness should basically focus on three steps. So the first is prevention. How are we going to be able to prevent pollution risk? But that ultimately can be as far as we can reduce the probability. The risk is always real and may exist. So our second objective here becomes having a robust preparedness robust preparedness measures, using ideally dedicated resources such as equipment and personnel, which I'll show a little bit in the next few slides, which are ready to respond at any given time. While we never want to use these resources, a key element here will ultimately be for the preparedness will ultimately be training, and in a few moments, one of my colleagues is going to discuss that. But basically here in the next slides, what I'm going to be showing are the response strategies and options that we have for environmental protection. So this infographic is pretty useful for us to be able to see firstly, how an oil spill develops. You know, there's a source and it evolves over time, often towards the shore. And we can see here in the zones A, B, C, and the different regions, we can see here how we can prioritize the response. Ideally, ideally, we're going to respond in zone A, so closer to the oil spill, to avoid it from spreading and eventually reaching our environmentally sensitive areas. But obviously, that also takes into account, you know, what kind of safety and operational limitations we may have. This approach is known as the cone of response model, and it gives us a good understanding of the efforts that we'll have to be able to respond. So my next couple of slides, I'll basically be talking about through this cone, I'll be talking about the protection strategies that are accepted and used in Brazilian marine environments. The techniques, while they're presented separately and sort of in a sequence of events, obviously these things will occur simultaneously, depending on the circumstances, the scale, the duration of the operation. So in close proximity, we have zone A. So we're close here to the source of the oil spill. And typically we'll have dedicated resources. So dedicated resources here, we'll start with large scale vessels that have tanks that are able to recover oil, and that are equipped with diverse equipment for containment, recovery, detection, and so on. So looking at what kinds of resources might be on these vessels, we first have containment and recovery resources such as oil spill booms. Here in these images, we see two current busters. On the left side, we see two current buster solutions, which are high speed high speed water solutions with high efficiency of recovery. And on the right, we see conventional oil spill booms with skimmers. Basically, the objective of these two systems is the same. They are flotation devices which are deployed to sweep the oil into a focal point where a mechanical removal may occur. So basically, we're talking about pumps that are called skimmers. Here you see on the top right a skimmer device that's being launched into the water, and that is basically just a pump that will skim the surface of the water, removing the oil that is floating on top. Next, we have oil spill detection and monitoring solutions. So here we're looking at a screen with, in this case, oil spill detection radar screen. This radar basically, it collects navigation radar data to be able to interpret and predict where an oil spill might be positioned. So um, these stains on the screen basically give you an idea of potential oil spills. Equally, we can use thermal cameras. On the bottom right here of my screen, you'll see an image which is in a low visibility situation. we can continue to see ultimately where the oil spill is. So you can see this by the color or the darkness on the image. And all of this can be used, through data being sent to shore. We can have a 24-hour monitoring team that will not only accompany prior to any kind of oil spill. We can try to detect and monitor if anything is going on, but also once an oil spill has occurred, we can use these to accompany the spill and see how it's evolving. Thinking about containment and recovery, we also have subsea solutions. And here, basically, the focus is on capping the spill. So basically, these are images of capping stacks. They can be used for, let's say, plugging the source of the spill. Another alternative that we have for response are chemical dispersants. We'll see in the next couple of slides several dispersion mechanisms. So here we have subsea dispersion. These chemicals basically break down the particles and avoid it from concentrating and eventually reaching shore and reaching sensitive areas. So here would be chemical dispersion subsea. We also have examples of mechanical dispersion using, again, on our oil spill response vessels using firefighting systems. There's also solutions using in situ burning. Basically, we will contain and concentrate the oil in a specific region and then cause it to burn. When we get a little bit further away from the focal point, from the source of the spill, we start to look um, into other dispersion solutions. So we have aerial dispersions, basically planes that will use the same kinds of chemical dispersions that we might use subsea, but now we're doing it on a more regional basis. Going on to zone 3, we'll now have, again, using our vessels, we'll now have chemical dispersion in further out areas, say now reaching the shore. So these are all basically methods of how to dissipate, how to recover, how to avoid oil spills from reaching sensitive areas. During this response, we will typically use several surveillance solutions. So what do I mean by surveillance solutions? An oil spill as it evolves, I will want to know. Fred talked a little bit about ocean dynamics. So how is the oil spill going to evolve? How is it going to develop? Where is it going to head towards? So we have, for example, drifting buoys that can give us an idea of how the surface currents are going to make the oil reach shore or go away from shore. We have several other devices that will give us similar kinds of information. So we have autonomous underwater vehicles, we have gliders, we have several different kinds of mechanisms for us to understand the dynamics of the ocean, not only in, let's say, the preparatory phase, but also in the response phase. Another method of collecting data and providing surveillance are basically aerial observations. So this can be done either by helicopter flyover solutions for you to be able to have a more ample view of how the oil spill, obviously from up high, you'll be able to see how the oil spill is developing. Um, Obviously, helicopter solutions are typically only done by day. They're limited by autonomy. So more recent solutions will be things such as this balloon here in the middle of my screen, um, which basically is equipped with infrared cameras and other sensors, which will be able to give us an image of, again, up high of how the oil spill is evolving. This image on the top right is exactly an image from this balloon. So this gives you an idea of what kinds of images we can find. Drones are also used as a solution for aerial views. Obviously, drones give you more autonomy. They'll be able to go further away from where they're being launched compared to, for example, the balloons, which are tied down. But they're more restricted by the time of flight. So, each of these gives us slightly different information and gives us different flexibility. So ultimately, we believe that for an effective response, we'll need to use all resources available as appropriately as possible. In fact, I think I saw one of the questions here asking about satellite imagery. This is very important for our work. So during a response, we will often hire satellite images to be able to, in real time, to be able to see the dynamics. Again, if I'm looking from a helicopter, I'm going to be looking at a more ample image. When I'm looking from a satellite, this scale goes even further. So we can start to see the dynamics of the oil spill from further and further away, and that gives us more information of how it's evolving. All of this information ultimately is used to feed back to the management and the operations teams, which can then provide a better planning of our response strategies. So Adriano mentioned, understanding the dynamics of, is it going to reach island A or island B? And then I will know what kinds of environments I have there. I can now start to plan, and here in my next slides, I'll talk about shoreline protection. So then I can start to plan ahead of time how to respond to the protection of shoreline and wildlife. In this case here, I'm gonna let you guys watch a couple of videos that we have further ahead in our presentation. My colleague will be, when he's discussing training, he'll be able to explain a little bit more. But these are basically exercises that we've done in the past, and all of them are intended to protect shorelines, protect river basins, which ultimately is, our end game, let's say. Here I have a couple of images of examples of fauna protection. So ultimately, if there is an impact, we have resources and partners with resources that can help to recover and rehabilitate wildlife. And then in closing here, depending on the scale of the oil spill, we can obviously plan and we can prepare, but ultimately, uh, we can sometimes need much more resources to actually respond. So while oil and gas companies may hire us for preparedness, um, our company believes that we need to have the inventory on a non-dedicated basis to be able to respond to real-world events, which can grow to different scales. So this is just some images of our facilities with resources that are always ready to go and ready for response. So I'll hand over the word here to Adriano. It's been a pleasure speaking to everyone. And if you have any questions, I'll be available later.
It, thanks, John. That was very good and actually already introduced like the next steps in planning. It's so for us this is Just to remind, disclose our pay. So you give you like all the procedures, operational procedures. Then we move on for for the next steps. Um, which are the next steps? It's so we have cover on planning most the offshore parts and how a company would manage the event. Now we go for a more specific plans that can be part of your pay, but normally we do this separate. So it's a strategic protection plan. It's a shoreline protection plan, this one, and it's the information that you need for that. It's that you're gonna have on this plan. It's all that we talk about in marine, right? Remember, it's like to understanding your coastline, to understand the islands, to understand the wildlife that it can be impacted there. So it's mainly we're going to take all the information from marine, so the environment sensitivity index, physical, biological, socioeconomic aspects of the area. It's very important. So the operational aspect here, it's what type of procedures you are supposed to use to protect the area. So if you're gonna use, if you can use some areas to receive the oil more easily, then and so you're gonna like try to constrain the oil to the area. And if you have some priority sites to protect, it's gonna be also identify here in this plan. And you're gonna have maps for sure. In here, you're already gonna present what type of procedures you're gonna use for near shore and coastline, but it's average procedure. It's not for each specific location, and I'm gonna explain later why. And you're gonna talk about where are your shoreline and near shore equipments, where you're gonna store it. It's if it's gonna be on the hub, if it's gonna be on an advanced shore base, and for define that, a lot of information and evaluation you're gonna have to do about the time that you have to respond. And what is the time that we have to respond? Remember that our source it is on the ocean, and we're gonna take our oil drift modeling to check how long gonna take for our oil spill to probably arrive in islands, arrive in a coast, and this time is the time that we're gonna take account to check if you can work from a hub or if you're gonna need like a specific advanced shore base for protect. So this would be like here we call the PE-PLC, and together with the PE-PLC, you have also the PPIF. It's the Wildlife Protection Plan. It's a plan specific to identify all the priority species that you have vulnerable to oil spill in certain specific case, and the relevant areas that for protection for considering wildlife. And also you're gonna go about your operational aspects, the wildlife management facilities, equipment, and human resource. So where they are, where they're gonna be stored, it's gonna be a hub, it's gonna be advanced base, it's gonna be together with the PLC, and also which are your response procedures. So this together with the pay, it close all your strategy, how to respond to a oil spill here in Brazil, in case you have an oil spill in your activities. In some case, we go a little bit beyond the strategy plans. We go up to tactics. And why we go up to tactics? And what are the chain of decision that take us to this to do the TRPs? So the TRPs are the tactical response plan. They are specific for area, and the TRPs has all the working assignments for all the crew for everything that you want to do. So type, quantitative of each equipment and vessel that you're gonna use. So if you're gonna protect a river mouth, how much vessels you're gonna put there? What's are the length of your beach boom? How are the length of how many skimmers do you gonna have? How many chain do you need? How many anchor points do you gonna use to protect the river mouth? All this information needs to be inside your TRP. And not only that, for each one of these activities, you're going to have a group of people that have to implement and maintain their uh, uh, th- their strategy, their tactics. So that needs also to be inside your TRP. Your TRP has all the information that you need for assessing infrastructure aspects also. So normally uh, you could do a TRP like on the run. What's on the run for us? Is like you have an oil spill. The oil spill happened on the ocean. So you have a probability map and you start to monitor it. You start to use all the aerial surveillance that João already presented to us. And we start to narrow down this oil spill. It's heading for this part of the shore, for these islands. So we take all the information from your previous plan, your PPIF, your PLC, and you go there, check and see, okay, now I have the information that I need. I send a team to the field, and this team gonna start to write your tactics on detail. And then I write the text on detail. I start to mobilize all my equipment from a hub or from an advanced base and start to implement that before the oil can reach that specific area. Okay, so the important word here it's before. So you have to be ready. You have to be ready to implement before the oil reach there. And this is our decision making. So now I take all the oil modeling, I take every information that I have on my previous plans, and I check, do I have time to do a TRP on the run? What that means, I put all my information on the table and I check, okay, my oil drifting says to me that I have 8 days, 6 days, 10 days before this oil gonna reach the coast. And I know that I prepare a TRP in on the run 40, 24, 48 hours. I know that I have mobile time. I know that my equipment has mobile time, and I know that I'm gonna take from 8 to 16 hours to put all the equipments actually on the water to protect the. So I add up that, and I say that I can be ready in 4 days, 5 days. These will depends on your position. It's we calculate this for each one of your position on any operation. So if I have plenty of time to do my TRP on the run, I do not do a TRP ahead. However, if I I have an operation that has like the oil spill will reach the area in 4 days, 3 days, and I calculate that I need 4 to 5 days to be really good, really prepared with my TRP, then I go to these areas and I prepare my TRP ahead. So I already send all the crew, and the exercise there is the oil it's reaching here in 3 days, in 4 days, let's write the plan. And we fully write a tactical plan for each of the area that I need to have a TRP ahead. So I have a TRP, and if you have a TRP, you are writing tactical, and if you are writing tactical, you are on the field, you need to have a stakeholder engagement plan. So you need to be ready to engage in your local stakeholders. So you have mayors, you have defense civil, civil defense, you have police, you have everyone that needs to be informed, and you have a lot of people that will assist you. So you have fishing community, you have vessels owners, you have uh, a lot of people that can actually assist you to do a good response in the area. So you need to write and to be prepared with a stakeholder engagement plan. So it's just a stakeholder mapping, identify the key points of contact, and really define what it is your communication and notification protocol. So some stakeholders, it's only notification, but this notification doesn't mean that it's a telephone, doesn't mean that it's an email, or doesn't mean that it's a WhatsApp. Sometimes they have like a specific notification protocol. You must be aware of that. Sometimes it is only communications, and you can really do by WhatsApp, telephone, or email. And you must know that ahead. Okay? Woof. Now that you have everything there, we start now to write our training matrix. So this is something that's it's really important. Your training matrix is not something that you do before because you do not know how deep you need to go in your trainings and exercise before you do your plans. So it's not that everybody gonna have the same amount and level of trainings, but you need to know who gonna have what type of training to you decide that you are ready. And to go deeper on training and exercise, I'm gonna call here Marcelo Kurtz. Kurtz.
Thanks, Adriano. Hello, everybody. My name is Marcelo Kurtz. I'm the Emergency Response Director at Ocean Pact. It is a pleasure to be here today. In this presentation, we'll talk about implementation of the response plan, tabletop drills, and exercise. So, oil spill exercise should cover all the response strategies planned through which personnel can practice and verify oil spill contingency plan, operational, and safety procedure. So this exercise can include incident assessment and decision making, working together with external organizations, mobilizing or equipment deployment, and the development of personnel competence through continual improvement. So listed below are the main elements. So tabletop drills and exercise are an excellent way to personnel to practice in their pre-assigned emergency roles and to test and verify contingency plan and procedures. Joint exercise provide the opportunity to test the roles and responsibilities of expectations of the various parties involved. Personnel will not only feel more comfortable with the activity after exercising, but they will also benefit from strengthened connections with other response team members. Exercise carried out during the initial implementation of contingency plan will test and develop the response system to ensure that it meets the objectives of the plan, as well as assure the compliance with regulatory requirements. And finally, practical deployment of the oil spill response equipment in the real environment will verify that the tactical arrangements and resource specifications are appropriate and will highlight any adjustment that needs to be made. So an exercise program for organization or facility is a critical tool for verifying and improving the effectiveness of oil spill preparedness and response capability. Valuable lessons can be learned from the such exercise, and this should be used to improve response plans. So in the next couple of slides, we will present some examples of full deployment exercise carried out in offshore and the Brazilian coastline to prove the ability of um, exploration production project to respond to critical scenarios of an oil spill at sea. Here you can see a single vessel operation with a current bus at 6. This is for offshore operations. This is a very used equipment nowadays. It's easy to operate apart from two vessels. Can you play again? So instead of using two vessels, we just use one vessel. We have an integrated pump system. So it's a very handy. Yep, thank you. So it's a very handy equipment to be used. Okay. So coming up to the next one, it's a shoreline protection exercise. We can see, as João mentioned earlier in the presentation, we see a different type of response. We have containment recovery, we have protection, we have excluding zones, and this is all put it together. So also, as Adriano say, this was a TRP that we prepare in advance. So this exercise was to make sure that everything that we prepare ahead, we could put it together and see if there's any adjustment to be done along the exercise. This is, of course, we involve, we get in contact with all the local community, the fishermen, a lot of VOs, the vessel of opportunity, which is very important to get them involved because they're the ones that know the local the place, the local knowledge of tides, sandbanks, and things like that. So this exchange of information with us, giving them a lot of technical information, and they give us a lot of the local knowledge. This is very important. So, importance and value of training. Effective for oil spill preparedness require personnel who understands and can perform a variety of an emergency response and incident management functions. The purpose of an oil spill training is to ensure that these personnel are identified and given appropriate opportunity to learn and maintain relevant knowledge and skills to respond to a real event. And that is why Ocean Pact invests a lot of training and continuous improvement of its employees and partners. So now we'll pass it over to Leonardo Maciel, who will talk about a little bit of technology and how integrated with training and the response emergency.
Thank you, Cortes. Hello, everyone. I'm Leonardo Maciel, I'm Brazilian. I'm currently Innovation Manager at Ocean Pact, and I live in this wonderful city of Rio de Janeiro, as do also my fellow colleagues who have spoken today. I've been in this industry for more than 10 years now, and I must say that among our colleagues today, I'm the least experienced one. So that's lots of seniors here. During these last 10 years, laws and policies have evolved, technology has advanced greatly, and people have changed. Our society has changed. We, as a society, are much more conscious today about the importance of preserving the natural resources, and Ocean Pact as a company is committed to helping our clients explore these natural resources in a sustainable fashion. Innovation is in our DNA. It is one of our core values, along with ethics and the safety of our people and the environment. Note, though, that innovation is not only about being creative, but it's also about exploring with success an idea to deliver value to our clients, our society, and our environment. Innovation is not only about creating a new product, it's about delivering a new service or a better service. It's about exploring new ways of doing things that consume less resources, produces less waste. It's about harnessing new technologies for a cleaner, safer ocean. Um, Technology innovations have the potential to bring value to all stages of an oil spill campaign, from preparedness through operations to oil spill response and environmental remediation. Today, I will give you a glimpse on what we've been working on with regards to oil spill preparedness and response. João Serra has given us earlier today an introduction to different response strategies to contain an oil spill as soon as possible and as effectively as possible once it happened. But prevention is the best response. And one of the projects that we've been researching is the modeling of blowout risk to quantify the risk, to understand how sensitive risk is to different mitigation barriers, including but not limited to machinery, median time between failures, redundancies, and human factors. Oh. Um, Also, we've been exploring with tools like serious games to simulate oil spills and to test response strategies. We have developed tools also to collect information from the field and we have been adopting new technologies such as unmanned vessels to reduce the risk to human beings during oil spill response operations. We have been exploring also with the use of autonomous unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, also known as drones, with the goal to lead to safer offshore drone operations. And performing live transmissions of oil spill responses and drills as well, delivering real-time situational awareness to the client, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the incident management team, located sometimes hundreds or even thousands of miles away. With the capability also of rapidly deploying communication solutions to remote areas without cell phone network coverage, enabling efficient responses anywhere along our vast coastline. We follow closely on new technologies to improve early detection capabilities and contain the oil spill as soon as possible, and continuously monitoring oil spill response operations. But the most important work we have been working on lately is probably the Kronos project. It's about understanding the ocean dynamics, as Fred has already mentioned earlier today. It's about creating the best possible ocean circulation model of Brazilian coast, starting with the coast of Rio de Janeiro, our backyard, and close to the majority of offshore oil fields in Brazil. Enjoy this short video.
O projeto Cronos ele surgiu em decorrência de uma demanda do próprio mercado, se ter ferramentas integradas que pudessem, de uma forma sistemática, monitorar os oceanos e, mais do que isso, entregar respostas para, no caso nosso, mercado de óleo e gás, com mais rapidez e eficiência. A gente pegou o melhor dos satélites, unimos a uma ferramenta que existem aproximadamente 500 no mundo, que é o radar de alta frequência, no nosso sistema Stakeholder, né? Nós compramos de uma empresa no Silicon Valley, né? Então um radar de alta tecnologia que nos permite ter o campo de corrente em quase real time. É quase tempo real. Ele tem um delay, mas ele é muito próximo do real time. Isso é muito importante, porque te dá o quê? Te dá uma orientação exata. Por exemplo, de quando você tem um determinado vazamento, você consegue fazer a previsão da trajetória desse óleo.
A gente instalou inicialmente 3 estações, que cobrem parte da bacia de Campos e Santos. São a estação de Cabo Frio, Itaipuaçu e Tomé, próximo ao Cabo de São Tomé. É muito importante a gente crescer essas estações para a gente ter um maior domínio de medição das correntes superficiais. E acho que com a ajuda da tecnologia, com a nossa área de inovação, a gente realmente assimilar mais dados, mais fontes de nossos barcos, criar quase um Waze do mar, com muita gente contribuindo para gerar mais informação.
Acabou que o melhor local para colocar a principal estação nossa, que é aqui na ilha de Cabo Frio, é esse local intocado. Tá? Uma região de difícil acesso, né? Uma ilha que temos que percorrer uma trilha de 1.700 metros para até chegar ao topo da ilha onde temos a nossa estação e construir esse abrigo com toda a solução verde de geração de energia, né, renovável. Foi um desafio hercúleo, eu diria. A gente queria o local com a melhor cobertura possível da bacia de Campos e aqui não tem lugar melhor.
Naquela ocasião no Nordeste, se a gente tivesse uma rede de radares ao longo da costa, com certeza a gente teria muito mais chance de identificar, por exemplo, aonde a maioria desses vazamentos iam tocar na costa. E a gente se preparar, ou seja, fazer uma resposta muito mais inteligente.
Por exemplo, em caso de um incidente com a queda de um helicóptero, a queda de um avião, ou uma queda de um homem ao mar, tá? Um barco à deriva, a gente também consegue muito mais assertividade, muito mais precisão de descobrir para onde ele está indo, né? Para onde está derivando.
Na realidade, o Cronos ele quer resolver tudo, quase tudo, né? Tudo é muito difícil, mas quase tudo. Ou seria coletar o dado, integrar o dado, rodar ele, assimilar ele nos modelos e dar respostas positivas de uma forma geral para a sociedade. termos de parceria, o projeto Cronos ele foi buscar os melhores parceiros do Brasil. A FINEP ela é financiadora. Sem a FINEP a gente não conseguiria montar o projeto Cronos. E o melhor parceiro, sem dúvida, é a Marinha do Brasil, né? Um grande parceiro nosso, através do Instituto de Estudos do Mar Almirante Paulo Moreira, que fica lá em Arraial do Cabo. Grande parceiro, que já é um instituto focado na parte de pesquisa oceanográfica, em acústica, em dinâmica oceânica, além da parte de biologia, de sustentabilidade, mas em química dos oceanos. Então tem muito a ver com o que o Cronos está, assim, que ele se propõe a fazer.
Para mim é um privilégio poder estar trabalhando no projeto Cronos, né? Que é um projeto extremamente inovador, que vai envolver equipamentos que a gente não tem ainda instalados no Brasil e que em outras partes do mundo esses equipamentos já estão instalados. Então a gente sabe da importância de ter esses equipamentos ao longo da costa. Então, a partir dessa inovação, eu acredito que a gente vai poder desenvolver ainda mais outras tecnologias no Brasil que vão ser ferramentas extremamente necessárias para a sustentabilidade.
All right. So to wrap up, we are working towards creating sort of a digital twin of the ocean, with the purpose of leading to better comprehension of what has happened, what is happening, and what will happen on the ocean surface and subsurface, and integrating data from many different sources. Well, finally, I would like to call back to the stage Ana Lira. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Leo, and all other speakers. Therefore, as we approach the end of our presentation, as conclusion, we'd like to present what Ocean Pact understand as appropriate method of preparedness to oil spill at sea. Starting with the process of assimilating the applicable legislation, then a process of studying the region and all these environmental characteristics, as Adriano and Fred talk about, and also analyzing the risk associated with our activity. Then, with all this information, we can start the planning process. And to construct the planning, we go through the stages of oil modeling, identification of potential areas impacted, um, and the definition of strategies and equipment that Juan and Curtis present to us today, and also to be wrap up all this information in pre-documents, establish and approve it. Finally, we start theoretical and practical training with all the stakeholders that potentially will be involved in the response. We believe that the more fundamental that a detailed and well-developed plan is remain confident that we can always improve. So that's why we put this continuous improvement slide. Therefore, on behalf of Ocean Pact, I thank you all for your participation and attention. At this point, we open space for questions, which are sure will be of great value to enrich the conference. We already received some questions here in the YouTube chat, so I'll start with the first one. Adriana, I think you can start that. What the oil and gas companies in Brazil are doing to be prepared to manage an oil spill?
Thanks for the question. So actually, what the companies here in Brazil are doing, it's mainly all this presentation. It's all the oil and gas company here to operate in Brazil can be for exploration or production. They need to have the plan request during the license, so they need to have approval plan. Uh, the level of the plan, the level that I'm saying, it's if you're gonna be a strategic offshore, if it's going for a coastline plan, if you go up to tactical, that gonna depends on how far away your operation is from the coast and from any sensitive area. Uh, they're gonna change like the demands. But normally, so oil and gas companies in Brazil They have an approval plan from IBAMA, from our federal environmental agents. They must have dedicated equipment. So I think this is as is an event for around the world. Here in Brazil, some part of the equipment must be dedicated. Uh, f- this for offshore and nearshore and coastline. So they must have dedicated equipment. They must have procedures that can prove they are able to do surveillance and monitoring if they have a oil spill case. They must they must be ready to scale your response. So if they go from like a medium case for a worst case, they must be able not only have dedicated equipment, but know how to find and how to mobilize more equipment. This is a really important issue here in Brazil that is like having equipment for tier two, tier three events. Um, and they have to prove with training and drills. Uh, so they also, and this is not long ago that they are having to show that, but they are also having to provide or to prove that they are organized in case of events. So it's like, if you have an emergency on a company, an incident in a company, like the organization is not the same the day-to-day activities. So they need to prove that they are able to organize themselves and be prepared to take decisions and to mobilize more equipment if they have an oil spill. So hope I answered the question. If have a follow back,
Thank
just
you,
say it.
Adriana. If you're still having doubts, you can continue to write down in the chat, okay? So I will go to the second one. How do I become a volunteer in the event of an oil spill accident hitting the beach? João, could you start on that?
Thanks, Anna. Well, this will depend basically on each emergency. Each operator will have its own policy for volunteer programs. So in this case, basically, it'll involve what kinds of activities might be involved. This will take into consideration the risks associated to those activities, and so on. So there's no clear-cut answer, and we'd have to look on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you, João. So, third one, what are the benefits of implementing an emergency management system during an oil spill? Adriana, this is one for you.
Um, okay, it is a really important topic, but let's change a little bit the questions. Like, the question? What are the benefits of implementing an emergency management system during an oil spill? So the benefits of implementing during an oil spill, it's almost none. For sure, it's have some if your response go for a long time. Okay, but you must think about the incident management system before you have an incident. You must think about what are your system, how your structure, how your organization going to be structured, what are the approval protocol, what are the communication protocol, what are the roles and responsibilities for each one before happen the emergence, any emergence. And the benefits of that, it's truly enormous. It is the incident management system that actually assists the decision making process. And a good decision making process make sure that everyone in the response it's aiming for the same goal for that's all the information that it's necessary to respond. It's there, it's clear there. It's not only that someone in the room knows, but a lot of people in the field doesn't know because the information didn't arrive there. So it's all about getting organized, and it's all about like always coming down and leaving the chaotic phase. So through the incident management system, they try to minimize as much as possible the time of chaotic. So it's happen an emergency, you get in a chaos. So you go for your management system, you believe in your emergencies, you are trained for that, and you go, okay, we know what's our next step. Let's start there.
Thanks, Adriana. Leo, could you answer this one? Are satellite data used in the company's operation to access the position and size of oil slicks?
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for the question. So the answer, short answer is yes. We do have a specialist in-house that already deliver this kind of service, interpretation of X-band and C-band satellite imagery for oil spill detection. And so measuring the size of the spills and delivering reports to the clients. Yeah, that's the basically the short answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. Uh, Next one. What is the role of Brazilian authorities during oil spill preparedness and response? I think Adriana can start on that.
Sorry, what's the role?
Of
Can you repeat?
Brazilian authorities during oil spill preparedness and response.
Okay, the Brazilian authority, it has like one of the most important role, and actually it's being here, it's in Brazil and working in Brazil. It's something that's it's important to always congrats them uh, for actually like working with the industry and really getting a better preparedness status along the years. So the authority they start like setting the bar. They start to define what are the minimal requirements that any company must have. And these minimal requirements, it's really important and really give like a view how the whole industry can come together for a response. So they are, I think they are the guidelines. Okay, yeah, yeah. In one stat. In another stat, I think that we evolve a lot in the last years, and they are pretty much a part of the response. Also, we must remember that nowadays we have here in Brazil the National Contingency Plan, and and you have possible supports for all the institution, federal institution, state institution, what's are their role in case of oil spill. So on one hand, they actually work together for get even prepare each time. In the other hand, uh, they are ready to respond together with the companies, um, with knowledge, with information, with procedures that can that they can assist the companies. Here in Brazil, it's just a little bit different from some part of the world. Normally, the authority doesn't go in with a lot of equipment. No, you have the Brazilian Navy that can assist, like to secure an area, but normally not too much equipment from them, but a lot of process, human resource, and guidelines.
Thanks, Adriana. Next, what was the last real emergence that Ocean Pact has worked? João, could you take this one?
Yeah. So Ocean Pact has worked over the last several years on a couple of emergencies. Most recently, I would say we worked on a mining tanker which ran aground offshore in Maranhão. We implemented the ICS structure there. We provided resources, including vessels and equipment. We also, in recent years, have worked on the escorting process of an FPSO during an emergency. We developed tactical response plans for this process, as well as providing, again, vessels and resources for other operators. Um, on a pro bono basis, we've also worked. We supported the response to the northeastern orphan oil spill disaster, which occurred several years ago. There, we provided PPE material, we provided training to local communities, um, and so on. So, quite a few examples.
Thank you, Joan. So I go to the last one that we received. Are there opportunities for collaboration and partnerships? I can start on that, and all of you can complement. So for sure, Ocean Pact is usually to do a lot of partnerships in order to have a proper response according to the type of the event, oil spill, wildlife response. So it will depend on the case, and collaboration is always very good. But you need to be trained, you need to be aware of all the risk and all the equipment necessary to be handled on in a safe way. So we can also achieve us in our contacts available in our website, and be a pleasure to continue the discussion and continue with other um, change of knowledge as you may need. Okay, so if you do not have any other questions, I would thank you again for all the participation and see you soon.